My name's Heather, and I think everyone has met me or seen me at some point. I am a dietitian. I work for Mount Carmel, and I'm going to talk about shedding pounds the right way. That's something that, like, obviously, as a dietitian, I like to encourage, and I see many times just different ways of losing weight, and some of it's not always like the best and healthiest and the smartest way to do it. And so I'm going to give you just some tips and some ideas on how to do that. And then we're going to do an activity at the end of when I get done talking. So just a little activity, and then we'll be done. So, all right, so make sure, I think everyone hopefully saw the sign-in sheet. You signed in so you can get credit. And then there are some handouts. And then our purpose today is we're going to talk about successful weight loss and how to keep the weight off. And then the activity is a SMART goal activity. Some of you have probably done this before, but I'm going to gear it towards weight loss or weight management. If that's not what you're here for today, like you're just here for information, you want to do it for something else, you can make a SMART goal for something else. Okay, so probably a lot of us know, like, the health of our country, we're not doing so great, and this is more the United States in general. And a lot of it has to do with decrease in activity level and changes in the way that we're eating, changes in the last 20, 30 years, especially with portions and types of foods that we see in the grocery store. There's a newer word out there called ultra processed, and that is like your packaged type foods that come in boxes that is mostly like pre-made, and those are really causing our health, like blood pressure and heart disease. Our rates are going higher, and there's been a lot of recent studies on the ultra-processed foods. But one thing is that when we surround, like, our, I would say, like, family and friends and things that we're doing, and when we're around it, and we're seeing it, we're going out to eat, and we gotta get normalize it. Like, we get used to it, and we think that's like, hey, that's normal. It's normal for us to eat portions. If we're hand delivered a meal or served a meal, and portions are really large. I grew up where my parents said, you eat, finish what's on your plate, before you get up, type of thing. And so we get kind of used to it. And those foods tend to be not only high in portions, but also high in fat, particularly saturated fat, high in added sugar, and sodium as well. All right, so I'm just going to have like several things on here. Can everyone read these? Can you see this in the back? These are just comments that I see are very similar to what I hear this quite often. But these are just things I just want you to kind of think about, and they might be something you've thought before, or you've heard before, or you've said before. But if any of those, like, how would you respond? Maybe just pick one, and like, how would you respond, or what could be like a different approach to that thinking? Anyone have any thoughts or suggestions?
Well, clearly,
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, kind of take a preventative approach too, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get, you have those genes, you have an increased risk, but, kind of learn from them some of those healthy habits, some of the things that they're trying to incorporate, so that you can help prevent it or delay, certainly delay getting it. Absolutely. Anyone else like to chime in? thoughts?
They don't need more cookies.
Yeah. The first time I heard this, I was working with a patient, somebody, and she was coming to see me, and she was giving me her food log, and I was consistently seeing like these cookies on her food log, and I just asked her like, can you try to eat less, or like, is there something like, can we kind of stop this habit because it was sabotaging? And that was her comment to me. Like, it wasn't for her. She had them for somebody else, but then she was eating them. And I've heard similar situations, with grandkids too, and you really don't need to be eating that. I mean, like, those should be like treats or something fun to do. And it was just making her tough to achieve her goals. So, and just to add on to this, with the, I had a donut for breakfast. It really doesn't matter. I hear that. Just because you had a donut for breakfast doesn't mean like you've ruined the whole entire day. You can do great for the rest of the day. And then the exercise, I hear this, well, I'll just do it tomorrow, kind of like pushing it off. And if I find, like, if I'm working with somebody and I find that they're doing that consistently, try to think of it as this would be on your schedule, just like a meeting or an appointment, and don't keep pushing it back. And then the breakfast, when I've never eaten breakfast and just not hungry when I get up. This could be a couple things, just like a habit. Your body's kind of gotten used to it. And so, I try to get somebody to just have something small in the morning to try to get you used to eating breakfast. Or sometimes I'll notice, like, the person does it, like, has a couple hundred calories for breakfast, a few hundred for lunch, and then like the rest of their calories are all for dinner, and they're just not hungry in the morning. And it's kind of like a cycle. So trying to distribute their calories throughout the day can be helpful. Okay, so some of you have probably seen this before, and this is just something when I'm working with somebody that I kind of go through with them. And whenever you're trying to make a change, it's really with anything, if you really want to do that, it's good that you're in the right, it's best, I should say, that you're in the right place to do that. So there are different stages of change. And for example, I'll go through. And so say, for example, you're interested in losing weight, or say somebody is. Well, the pre-contemplation would be the stage where they're probably not going to do it in the next 6 months. It's kind of like not really in the front of their minds. It's kind of way, way in the distance. The next stage is the contemplation, and that's where, well, they're maybe thinking about it. The next few months, they might do it. So the person who's going to be the most successful in that behavior change or whatever they're doing is really when they're getting towards that preparation, because that's when they're gathering their resources, they're preparing, they're learning and figuring out like what they're actually going to do. And then action is when they're doing it, they're implementing it. And the maintenance is when they've done it for a while. It's kind of part of their life, mainstream, they're doing it. It's there. The relapse is, this happens to a lot of people. Maybe you've been working on losing weight for a few months, and then you have a death in the family, and it just changes, your whole life, your schedule, your maybe finances, and you go through a relapse. But maybe 6 months down the road, you're in a better position to start that up again. And so you kind of go through these stages again. But so that happens. Not everyone, I should say, goes through that, but it does happen. But when you're ready and you believe that you can do it, that's kind of really the best time to lose weight. All right. And I put this on here because I feel like sometimes losing weight or the best way, it can be confusing just because we get a lot of information from a lot of different sources. We get it on social media, our good friends tell us what to do. We see things like this. And, sometimes like when we read it, we're like, oh gosh, this turbo keto diet, lose 22 pounds in 9 days. That sounds awesome. Like, who doesn't want to do that? Right. But I would tell you, and hopefully you guys know this, like these people, they don't actually like look like this. They do a lot with images and Photoshop or whatever, whatever they use. And they have their own personal trainers and they can have people cook for them. And, they're not you and I. Like, they are not everyday people. So I try to be like, don't compare yourself to these people. If you see something, it sounds probably too good to be true, like the 22 pounds in 9 days. It is. That's not a healthy way to lose weight. You can't lose that much weight in fat in that short period of time. It's impossible. That person, if they lost that much weight, would probably, if they're severely sick or they're losing a ton of muscle, you can lose bone density. There's going to be a lot of water weight in there. And really, like, that's an extreme amount, like to lose. All right. So what does it mean to diet? And this is from Webster's Dictionary. It can be used as a noun, it can be used as a word. But a lot of times when people tell me that they're going on a diet, there's kind of an end. There's always like this end point to it. They're drastically changing what they're doing and then they're stopping. And so if you want to lose weight and say this is something like you're doing this for your health, you want to do this, think about it as this is long term. I want to do something I can do for the rest of my life. I can stick with it. I believe that I can do it. I want to do it in a healthy way. And so I try not to use the word diet in the sense like you're going on a diet type of statement. I try to use more like, okay, well, let's eat healthy. Let's eat like you're eating right. Eating clean, I really like, clean, that can mean like, oh, I'm having more whole foods, like, I'm not having this processed food. I'm making better food choices and trying to think of it that way. All right, I gave everyone this chart. It's a BMI chart and stands for body mass index, and probably everyone here knows what it is, especially if you've had a biometric screening, and a lot of people just, you don't like it. Which is fun. No, it just is based on height and weight. So most of us are staying kind of like around the same height. And so as your weight changes, that BMI number will essentially change. And if you've ever seen, there are different categories and they're labeled. What I just want, and I shared it, and what you could use this for is if you want to change that number. Like, and some people want to move from one category to the next category. There are other ways or other things you can use, but this is just one example. It's not good or reliable if you have somebody who has an extreme, like very muscular, just because they have a lot of muscle mass, and that will skew it higher. And it's not good to use for the elderly just because they have less muscle mass, and it will make their BMI lower. But most people don't fit into those categories. If you want, like, just for your information, that these numbers, so like you go from 32 to 31 and then from 31 to 30, that's around 6-ish pounds. So you can expect an improvement in one whole number if you've lost around six pounds. Another thing that you can do, like coming up with a weight goal, is just take 5% or 10% of your current body weight and use that as like an initial weight loss goal. So that's another method. Some people like using body fat. as a tool. If you have access to something that can get your body fat. I'll actually be here in a couple weeks doing with the InBody machine, and it does do the muscle and the body fat. And so if you want that done, it's really cool. I recommend coming and getting that done. You'll get a nice printout. Some people like to use like how their clothes feel, like changing from one size to another, or doing body measurements. That's another tool. All right, so I gave everyone this chart, and if you kind of just want to know like how many calories that you need in a day, this is an estimate, and it's not, like I like to tell people, like everyone has kind of their own calorie needs based on like what they're doing and their body type, their body composition. But if you want kind of a general number maybe to get started with, the left side here, that's for guys, and then women are on the right here. Sedentary is basically you're not really doing much exercise other than, what it takes to do like your basic, what you do in a basic day. Moderate is when you're exercising like 1.5 to 3 miles, or walking, not running, like you're walking, and then active if you're doing more than that. And then you can see based by age, as we get older, our calorie needs actually decrease. We just don't need to have as much as we get older as when we were younger. Any questions about this at all? All right. So how quickly? So gradual weight loss is actually the best way to approach it. You could say like 1 to 2 pounds per week is healthy, or you could say like 1% of your body weight. So if you're 300 pounds, that's 3 pounds. If you're 200 pounds, that's 2 pounds. And that's just going to help you lose more body fat versus muscle, and you can also lose bone density too. And then doesn't matter what kind of calories. So if you have a calorie, like a negative calorie balance, so like you're expending more than what you're taking in, you will lose weight. There are some other factors that play a part in that as well. But if you are eating, like the calories that you're eating are full of fat, high in sodium, high in added sugar, that's not great. That's not going to be great for your health. It's not going to be great for blood pressure, your cholesterol, chronic disease, cancer prevention, and all of that. We also know that foods that are high in sugar, high in sodium, they release a couple hormones like the dopamine and serotonin, and make us feel good and kind of relax us. And so it's kind of an addictive thing. And so when someone says, hey, I'm like addicted to sugar, it's actually a real thing. Like you get used to it and your body likes it. And so having those types of foods repeatedly are not going to be good, because you're more likely to do that. But if you're trying to wean yourself off, decrease, those types of foods, you get used to it. It takes some work. It usually takes a few weeks for your body to kind of adjust and get used to not having it. So there's a weight control registry online, and you can just do an internet search, the National Weight Control Registry. There's over 10,000 people in there, and to be a part of it, you have to have lost 30 pounds and kept it off for a year. So any one of us, if you've lost 30 pounds and kept it off for a year, you can be part of this group of people in this registry. So being part of this registry, they ask those participants some questions, and they kind of want to learn, like, okay, what have you done to be successful? What helped? And so these are the things that are found for these people that have been successful in losing weight and they've kept it off. So they've changed, obviously they changed what they're eating, they changed their diet, increase their activity, they eat breakfast, they weigh themselves once per week, they limit screen time, so that's like TV, computers, phones, anything with a screen. They're getting plenty of sleep, they're managing their stress, drinking plenty of water, and they're eating mindfully. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit through that. So one thing that you can try to do, and this is things with diets. One thing with diet, there's a lot of times there's a list of don't eat these foods, don't eat these food groups or certain types of foods. So a lot of restrictions. But I want you to kind of think of, okay, maybe instead of focusing on like what you can't eat, focus on what you should be eating and including, and focus more on those types of foods and try to increase the amount of those foods if you're not doing it already. So for example, crowd your plate and fill it up with more foods like fruits and vegetables. So like in this picture here, there's lots of color, lots of vegetables, and there's fruit on this side. And so those foods have a lot of nutrients that are beneficial for us, but also they're very, very low in calories as well. And stop labeling food like, here's my good food and here's my bad food. Again, I find like when there's the good list and a bad list, it's really hard for people to stick with it. They get exhausted. It's a lot. And so again, focusing on what you should be eating and incorporating versus, hey, I should be taking this out. So this, just have a little tip. So I like pizza. I know a lot of other people like pizza too. And so if you find like when you get pizza, you eat a lot of pizza. One thing you can do is, fill up maybe on a salad, like a really nice large salad, have that first. And then that's going to help fill your stomach. And then you end up eating less pizza, but you still get to have the pizza. All right, rethinking our beverages. I tell people, try not to drink your calories. Really, it's not the same as food. And a lot of the beverages that have calories in them, it's sugar calories. It's added sugar calories. There's no nutritional benefit from that. So I have some examples here, and you guys tell me I want you to match these calories to the beverage here. So we got the latte with skim milk, and it's a 12 ounce. Yeah, so 100 calories. What about the next one? Yeah. My gosh, do you guys ever look up some of those calories in those drinks? Yeah. And then we know, and usually I just say like there are no calories in black coffee. Like nothing. It's caffeine. It's a fluid with water. Almost, it's almost like calorie free. All right. So true or false? Whole milk has more calcium and vitamin D than skim milk. They're false, true, false. False. Yeah. So it doesn't actually matter. So if you're drinking milk, it doesn't matter as calcium and vitamin D. Even the plant-based drinks, so like the soy and the almond, they all have calcium and vitamin D added to them. So here that you can see like there's calcium, vitamin D. The difference is the fat. So as you decrease fat, you decrease calories. All of these drinks have the same amount of protein. Your plant-based ones, the soy milk has 8 grams of protein, but like the rice and the almond, unless it says like almond milk with protein, it's very, very low. It doesn't have the same amount. All right, I got another one for you here, beverages. Match the calories to the beverage here. Well, how about lemonade? Let's start with the lemonade. Match these with like the beverage here. 200 for the for 20 for it's 20 ounces. So I did this for all. Those are all 20 ounces. Mm-hmm. What about the Coke? For the diet? Zero. I don't have any. Yeah, the diet and like the Coke Zero, they have sugar substitutes which don't have any calories in them. Sweetened tea. Mm-hmm. And then unsweetened, your water. And then this one's 8 ounces of apple juice. So with juice, juice does have, like if it's 100% juice, there are some good vitamins and minerals in juice. It's still better to have most of your like fruit and vegetables coming from actual fruit and vegetables because you get the fiber. So with juice, I recommend don't have more than 8 ounces a day is what my recommendation is for 100% fruit juice. All right, so exercise activity is really something that you gotta be doing if you're able to do it because it helps burn calories. For an hour, you can expect to burn anywhere from 200 to 600 calories per hour. Typically, depending on how fast you are, when you're doing the walking, jogging, or swimming. Typically, like if you're walking a mile, you say, or even just doing like walking fast or jogging, it's about 100 calories per mile. Helps increase metabolism. So if you have two people, say they're identical, like identical twins, one exercises, one the other doesn't, the exercise that they did that day, their metabolism is going to be faster, higher. It carries over for a whole entire day compared to their twins. So exercise is really, really important. It can be really beneficial. It helps decrease appetite. Obviously, it helps with stress. And so, one thing, if you find yourself grabbing for food, if you're stressed, try to just go for a walk because it really can help release some stress. The recommendations are for us to get at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous, and then doing muscle strengthening a couple times per week. All right, eating breakfast helps break the fast from not eating over the night. We tend to burn more calories throughout the day when you have breakfast. That's what research has shown. And some studies have shown that people have lower BMIs. They end up consuming less fat throughout the day. They tend to eat more fruits and vegetables, consume more calcium and fiber. And then they have better memory when they're eating breakfast. And you see that in kids too. That's why they have the school lunch and school breakfast program. We want our kids to eat, and it's the same for us too. When we're eating, we're breaking that food down and using glucose or sugar, and that's what feeds our brain. And so we feel better, and we can think better, perform better, and so forth. So I do recommend having breakfast, or at least something in the morning. Weigh yourself every week. So this is just to show your progress. And try to weigh yourself the same time, same place, on the same scale. A lot of times I'll just say, first thing in the morning, go to the bathroom in your birthday suit, get on the scale, and then try to compare that from week to week instead of doing it different times of the day, because as you start drinking fluids and eating, our weight tends to go up during the day. And so the best is to always do it in the morning. And you'll see ups and downs. So like maybe 1 week, like say you went up a half a pound. Don't get discouraged. Just always keep up with it. And you'll get there. Like the next week, you might notice you're down a pound. So the important thing is like you're seeing, like if you put it on a graph, like you're gradually seeing a decrease. Starve the distractions. So that goes along with the digital and screens. So people tend to eat more when you're in front of a screen. It's because we eat mindlessly. So if you're watching TV and eating, you're focusing more on the TV versus the food that you're eating. We tend to just eat mindlessly and eat more. It can also hurt relationships with food and not really thinking about, like appreciating all the things about food and taking your time with food. And it makes it hard to make changes as well. So trying to just eat and just eat at a table and not doing other things can be really helpful, and keeping the portions down and also eating the right things too. Stress, always, if it's chronic stress, should be addressed before trying to lose weight. So if you know that you are experiencing chronic long-term, it's been going on for 6 months, it's a long-term thing, it's going to make it really tough to lose weight because there are stress hormones or hormones that are released when we're stressed, and they can affect our appetite and our food choices. And I know when I'm stressed, I don't tend to grab a salad or, something healthy. I want something quick, and it's usually something that's not healthy. And so when we're stressed, we tend to choose different types of foods as well. Prioritize sleep. We should be sleeping at least 7 hours every night. There's a nurses health study that tracked 68,000 women, and they found those that didn't sleep. They slept less than 5 hours per night were 28% more likely to gain at least 30 pounds over the course of the study than those who had slept the 7 hours. And that has a lot to do with changing hormone levels that affect sleep. So the ghrelin, that is a hormone that can increase appetite. So that tells us, hey, we want to eat, and it can increase that. Leptin is the one that is typically released when we're eating, that says, hey, we're full, and it kind of gets us to stop. But when you're not getting good night's sleep, you're not going to have as much of that hormone. And so sleep is really, really important. Here are some tips if you are having trouble sleeping. And if you've done these before, like you've done everything, you're still having trouble sleeping, I really recommend checking, have a conversation with your doctor about it, because sleep is really, really important. It's important to, have it dark in the room, don't have any digital devices, keep it cool. I listened to a webinar yesterday, and the doctor said, or she was the presenter, it's like 65 degrees in the bedroom, and it's like, ooh, that's kind of, for me, that's kind of chilly, but she's like, that's like a really good temperature to sleep at. Hydration really helps. So having water, and I recommend, having water can fill you up. If you struggle with it, maybe come up with a couple plans or a couple goals in trying to incorporate more water in your diet. Maybe get up in the morning, have a nice big glass of water. Have water with your meals. Carry a water bottle around with you. Some people will get the nice big water bottles that hold the whole 64 ounces or maybe 32 ounces and fill it up a couple times. If you don't like the taste of water or you're struggling, some of those flavorings that you can add to water can be helpful, or even just adding like some lemon juice or lime juice or cucumber or something like that to flavor it can really help improve water intake. And there are apps out there like that you can download, and I have an example here. This one's called a Daily Water Drink Reminder. that you can use to help remind you to drink water, and it can help you track to make sure you're getting what you are trying, your goals are. Be mindful, eating triggers. So just realizing like what is triggering you to eat. And this is something you can write down, especially if you are recording your food. Like if you notice like you eat certain foods when you're stressed or when you're bored. And those are all important to know. Outsmart some of those triggers. So ask yourself, when was the last time you ate? So say it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but you ate at 12:30, and when did you eat? If it was just a couple hours ago, you're probably not hungry. So what you can do is have a nice big glass of water, wait 15 minutes, and then if you're still hungry, maybe you need to have a snack. But a lot of times we might not be hungry, and it could just be maybe you're thirsty, because sometimes that when we're dehydrated can seem like you're really hungry, but you're actually dehydrated. Food cravings. So I encourage, don't completely restrict certain foods. So again, like those lists of foods that, don't eat and eat, you try not to do that. Try to think of food, like you can have all different types of foods, but try to focus more on the fruits and vegetables, so those healthy foods. Take a walk, work on a hobby, or call a friend if you're getting the temptation to eat. If you're here, get up, walk around, and typically those food cravings, they last like 5 to 10 minutes and they go away. All right, so food tracking can be very, very, very helpful. I have a couple examples of some good food trackers. It's just a way, you log your food in there, and then it can tell you like how many calories you're taking in, and also tell you a lot about the other nutrients that you're taking in as well. One is MyFitnessPal. It has a huge library. It syncs with Fitbit and the iPhone app. So if you have an Apple Watch, you can use it. This one here, I recently started using. It's called Chronometer. I started using it because if anyone was using MyFitnessPal last fall, they stopped with the free version. You can't scan your food, the food label anymore to add it to your food log. And so I was trying to find one that you could use it for free. This one you can, it scans barcodes, but it also has like 34 different nutrients that it also tracks. So if you want to keep track of like B vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin C, amino acids, it also will track that as well. It uses the USDA as one of their resources for getting the information from food. So I like this now that I've been using it better than the MyFitnessPal. So, and then you can scan and you don't have to pay for it. That feature. So, all right. So taking tracking a little bit further. In this one here, the Chronometer, there's a note section. So you can write things like in that note section on that day, like was having a bad day, or I was craving this, or I felt I was really tired. So you can write notes about your food. And then one thing with tracking is that it can help you be more accountable for what you're actually taking in, because most people underestimate their calories by about 30%. And that's just, we think that we're not getting, we think we're eating less than we really are. So I highly recommend food tracking. Here's some other tips. Brush your teeth after you eat. Has anyone ever tried that? Yeah, it's helpful. Yeah, just brush your teeth and then Yeah, it's helpful. Don't have foods available if you're easily tempted by them. So if you like ice cream, don't keep ice cream in your freezer at home. That's more for like what I do because I really like ice cream. But if you're tempted by those foods, don't keep them at home because you're just going to be tempted to have them. Use smaller bowls and plates. One thing if you have kids at home, or you have like a little smaller spoon, you can try eating it with smaller spoons. And little bowls are good, and like bowls and plates, like using smaller. They've done research studies on this because it builds them up more, so you think you're actually getting more than if you had. You end up, yeah, it helps slow you down, and you don't put as much on it at a time as well. So it's just something like a tip, like a helpful tip that can be helpful. And then find a support system. So, your friends and your family, if you're trying to work on something, it's always great, and it can be helpful if they know about it because they can be there to help encourage you along the way. All right, and we're running out of time for the break. But so what I want you to do is I gave everyone a handout, and it's the nice color. It has the color on the top of it. It says shedding pounds the right way. So what I want you to do just after today is there's on the top, there's a space for a SMART goal, and it tells you what the SMART goals are. And this is a way to come up with goals. Instead of saying, like, I'm going to lose weight, right? That's considered a vague goal. What you can do is you can make it into, they call a SMART goal, and you just go through these steps, and you try to make sure that it's specific, it's measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Or you could say realistic or time-bound, so either one, or realistic or relevant, sorry. So you could say, like, instead of saying, oh, I want to lose weight, you could say, I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the year, and I'm going to do this by increasing the amount. I'm going to have 2 fruits and 2 vegetables every day. So trying to be very specific, and it's time bound because it's by the end of the year. Completely realistic to lose 10 pounds as well. So that's just a great, way to coming up with goals, and having it written down can be very helpful as well, instead of just saying like, oh, I have this in the back of my mind. All right, if you need more information, these are some additional resources. Amy Lewis is in charge of it's called our nutrition planning. She's our outpatient dietitians, and they meet with people about this topic all the time. This is their number, and then this is her email address. And then this is something that we do offer. It's called the resting metabolic rate. This is the number if you're interested in the cost. But what that is we all have a certain, what's called a resting metabolic rate. It's a number of calories that we burn considered at rest. And so if you are struggling to lose weight, or if you struggled in the past to lose weight and you really don't know why, it might be like maybe you're resting need to eat as much as you think you do, or something, it could be something like that. And this could just be helpful to kind of figure out, okay, what are my calorie needs at rest? It's basically like you're doing nothing. Like if you were just to lay there, you're just using the calories to breathe, to digest food. Your brain uses calories. It's kind of your resting calories. The activity calories, that's in addition to that. But this would be a number of calories it will calculate or figure out just at rest. This is a test that they do. All right, so remember, when you're losing weight,
not just to lose it, but also to keep it off forever too. So that's want that to be a long-term goal. And then be patient. It will come off. Always be patient. Don't get discouraged if you gained a half a pound or you gained a pound 1 week. Just keep up with it because it will come off. All right? And that's it.